In this video, we are going to see a walkthrough demonstration of the Geek Out tab. This and the Executive Decision are two tabs you'll be spending a lot of your time. This is where you realize the full power of the analytics we built for you. First, let me briefly reintroduce you to this particular portfolio. We are using the advice from the legendary investor and Vanguard's founder Jack Bogle, as stated in the NPR article. Jack Bogle created the world's first index fund for ordinary people. He founded the Vanguard Group, which now manages $3 trillion. Buy a stock index fund and add bonds as you age, he says. He does not believe in international diversification and bets completely on US equity and US bonds. First, I will draw your attention to the summary of the portfolio on the top. You get a summary of average monthly returns for each ticker in your portfolio per time horizon. I'm currently highlighting the lifetime time horizon. So for example, Fusex brings in 0.76% monthly return over lifetime. That is around 9% annual return. Its lifetime risk rate or standard deviation from that average is 4.11%. Now this means that Fusex has oscillated between negative 11.5% and positive 13% in monthly returns over its lifetime. That is a wild swing. At the bottom of the table, you also get to see the portfolio return, 0.64% and portfolio risk of 2.67%. Our portfolio is 20% equal weighted for all 5 tickers. So you can easily see that the portfolio average return is the average of all the individual returns coming from the tickers. But it gets interesting if you look at the portfolio risk. If you average all the risk from individual tickers, it comes to 3.134%. But as you see, the portfolio risk is only 2.67%. This is the key advantage to holding these assets in a portfolio. While the returns are averaged, the risk actually gets reduced. Because of that, this portfolio volatility swings between negative 7.37% and positive 8.65%, much tighter and less volatile than Fusex alone, for instance. The reason this happens is due to the covariance of this asset. I will spare you from the technical details of what covariance is. For now, all you need to know is that the statistical concept deals with how two assets move together. If the covariance is high, that means the assets act as if they are the same asset. That is, eggs in the same basket. The risk of the portfolio do not decrease just because you have these two assets that vary together. On the other hand, if the covariance is low, 0 or negative, that means these assets together will decrease the risk of the portfolio. In this portfolio, having FIBIX, for example, actually helps the portfolio risk go down, because as you can see, the covariance of FIBIX with most of the other assets is negative. Now let's see how, using this raw data, we get what we call as the efficiency curve. We are seeing many interesting plots on this graph. Let's take one at a time. The efficiency curve shows for a given set of tickers what the trade-offs are that are available in risks and return. For example, you can find out what is the minimum risk that you can build with these tickers in the portfolio. In our case, the minimum risk is 1.34%. Compare that with Fusex risk of 4.11% and the current portfolio risk of 2.67%. Now, a minimum risk portfolio may not be the ideal one for you, because a minimum risk portfolio in this case is returning only 0.46% return. Compare that with For example, Fusex, that was giving you 0.64% return, or the overall portfolio that was giving 0.64% return, and Fusex that gives 0.76%. So just because it's minimum risk doesn't mean that that is the one that is ideal for you. Now let's focus on the other items. Various risk return combinations. The efficiency curve also gives you a hypothetical case of if you want, let's say 0.6% return, what is the minimum risk you can get that with? So with our tickets, for example, you can get a 0.6% return with a risk of 2.13%. You can do worse than that, but you cannot do better than that. That is what the efficiency curve tells you. And another example, if you want 0.77% return, the minimum risk you can get that with is 4.04%. And again, the efficiency curve gives you a combination of ticker weights that can get you there. You can, with some other combination of the ticker weights, you can get 0.77% return, but you can never get a risk lower than 4.04% for that return. That is what the efficiency curve gives you. Also, one other thing that efficiency curve gives you is the maximum return you can get from the tickers that are given here is also the maximum return of an individual ticker, which is 0.8%. Or annually, that is 9.6%, close to 10% return year over year. But as you can see, when you are getting 0.8% monthly return, this comes at a risk of 4.46%. For each of the data points mentioned above, the efficiency curve also gives out the prescription for how you need to construct the portfolio. That is the weights of each ticker in that portfolio. Now it's time to introduce the concept of maximum, sharp, or most optimal allocation. As we saw in the previous examples, when the return increases, the risk also increases. But if the return increases at a higher rate than risk, then the overall risk-adjusted returns of the portfolio increases. At some point, the risk starts increasing faster than the return. After that point, the overall risk-adjusted return of the portfolio do not increase. While this may look like a difficult concept to grasp, if you see it visually, it will be easy to understand. As you see on this green curve, which is technically called the sharp versus return curve, the camel hump is the point where the risks start to grow faster than the returns. So technically that will be the most optimal point. You can also see that on the graph with a pink point. There is some confusion on this point. Please remember, this is not the point of most return. The point of most return is 0.8% with a very high risk of 4.46%, or the point of least risk. The point of least risk is the point where you have the minimum standard deviation. In our case, it's 0.46% return, 1.34 standard deviation. But the most optimal point, or the sharp point, is the point of the best risk-adjusted return you can get for this portfolio. You can technically get a higher return or get a lower standard deviation, but you'll never get the best or better risk-adjusted return than what you're getting at max sharp point. And in our case, at the max sharp point, the return is 0.52% and the risk is 1.49%. Now comes the most interesting point. In this efficiency spectrum, where does your current portfolio stand? Remember, for the max sharp point, the tool is recommending a 70-30 split between FIBIX and SWTSX. And for minimum standard deviation, the tool is suggesting a different set of weights. But remember, you allocated 20% equal weight for all the tickers in the portfolio. For that allocation, where do you stand with respect to efficiency spectrum? Your current portfolio is giving you 0.64% return at a risk of 2.67%. As you can see visually, it's also is very close to the blue curve or the efficiency curve. Now ask yourself a question. For the return you are getting, what is the minimum risk you can get? If you modify your portfolio weights a bit, that is instead of equal weighted of 20%, if you move that to 41% in FIBIX, 33% in SWTSX, and 26% in VTSMX, you can get the same return, 0.64%, but at a reduced risk of 2.55%. Similarly, if you are already sleeping very well, that is, you can tolerate the risk of your current portfolio, what is the maximum return you can get if you can hold the same risk? If you modify your portfolio weights a bit, that is, instead of 20% throughout, make that 38% in FIBIX and 62% in SWTSX, you can get a return of 0.65% for the same risk of 2.67%. Now that may seem pointless for this time horizon because our current return, current standard deviation is pretty close to the blue curve. But to prove this point, let me take you to the 1-year time horizon. As you can see here, from this efficiency curve, from where you stand, you can drop the risk by half from 2.07% risk to 1.03% risk for the same return that you are currently getting, or increase your return by 67% from 0.06% monthly return to 0.10 monthly return for the same risk that you are currently incurring by modifying the weights as suggested by Vicefolio. You can walk through various time horizons here to check how the efficiency curve changes and where you are with respect to the efficiency curve. Let me walk you through one by one. So we saw where you stand with respect to the efficiency curve in 1-year time horizon. This is for the 2 years time horizon. For 3-year time horizon, pretty much you are on the efficiency curve. For 5-year time horizon and for 10 years time horizon. Let me put it back into the lifetime time horizon and take a stock of all the things that we learned now. If you take a step back to understand the sophistication of the algorithm that lets you see these visually, in the back end, what we're doing is we're solving a nonlinear equation by varying the weights of the tickers and minimizing the standard deviation for a given return, or maximizing return for a given risk, along with a whole bunch of constraints such as weights have to add up to 100%, no shorting, that is weights have to be greater than 0%, etc. With liberal use of concepts from calculus, partial differential equations, and Jacobian derivatives. The key point is that we do it. You don't have to do it. We do it so that we can crunch all the numbers in the backend and present all of this in a way that is actionable for you. The results are rooted in strong mathematical foundation, and you can rely upon these suggestions of possibility. Only you can decide how much risk you can tolerate, how much return you need, and what your time horizon is. But Wisefolio provide all the flexibility in educating you on the range of possibilities with the tickers that are in your interest list. Yes, the user interface and concepts get a bit of time to grasp, but be assured that it is well worth your time. I used to do all of this manually with Excel sheets and data analysis tools such as Solver. I know the pain points of doing this manually. It used to take me 30 to 40 hours to do this across my 401k, my spouse's 401k, our retirement or non-retirement investments, and our kids' college funds. If you are working full-time and not doing this as your primary job, the 40 hours easily spread across 2 to 3 weeks to put that level of analysis. If you want to be diligent and do this once a quarter, that is 150 hours of work. It's close to 3 months of this monkey on the back of your mind burden. All those problems are gone now. I create 4 portfolios in Wisefolio. One for my 401k, one for my wife's 401k, one for our non-retirement investments, and one for my kids' college fund. I'll let Wisefolio run the analytics in the background and suggest me optimization possibilities. My time horizons are always lifetime, so it's simpler for me. So I look for any suggestions Wisefolio gives me and use that realm of efficiencies as one of the factors in my decision. I hope you enjoyed this demonstration and walk through the Wisefolio's Geek Out tab. The next demonstration is on how to use this information and make an executive decision. If you like this video, you'll have a blast there as well. I'll see you in the next demonstration. If you like this video, press like, subscribe to our video channel, and subscribe to Wisefolio at the email address shown below. And also log on to Wisefolio and sign up. It's free and painless. Once you sign in, you can create your own portfolio and try out all the things that we demonstrated in this video within 2 minutes. What are you waiting for?